Hello, it's me, and today we're going to introduce what's called the crazy octahedrons. Now, when it comes to building a collection, although there's a variety of different puzzles perhaps of the same class, what I'm learning now is I'm really just looking for specific ones in the collection, and I'm really into the circle puzzles, those that have circles that don't move, specifically circles that don't move on each side. Now, a variety of them have planetary versions where some circles move and some don't, and they do enhance the challenge and they're a lot of fun. But to be honest with you, rather than filling my cabinet with a whole bunch of puzzles that all look the same, I kind of like the aesthetics of just one specific kind, knowing that the solution is there and I can solve that if given enough time. I'm satisfied to just have specifics in the collection, a standard version and a circle version. And the circle version is on all sides and all of the circles turn. That's really what I'm looking for with that. Because what it does is it enhances the challenge more and more depending on what kind of a puzzle it is and what kind of a shape that it is. So what exactly does it mean to have a circle attached to your puzzle, a circle on each side? Well, when looking at the different variations of the circle puzzles, first it's important to see how when you have the standard version and all of them are stationary rather, there's oftentimes an association between these inner pieces and some of the outer pieces, usually an inner corner and maybe an outer edge. For instance, when you look at pyramidal puzzles, as you'd see with these Jing's pyraminxes, this is the circle version, and basically these crazy tetrahedrons are really Jing's pyraminxes. So it's the same kind of puzzle, but they put circles in here. This is one where the circle's on all sides. I do have a tutorial on how to solve that, but for this one you can see that this edge here, this outer edge, is pretty much the same piece as this inner corner. Because no matter what you do, every time you try to separate them, you can't. They always move with each other. Moving with each other over here, this and this. You can move them down, they're still with each other, and you can move this across, and these are still with each other. So by solving one, you solve the other. To make it more challenging, they have different planetary versions where some are stationary, and you mix that up. It does make it more challenging, but just for the aesthetics of the collection, for me it's good enough just to have these here. So that's the Jing's pyraminx version. As we go up a step, we can turn to the cubes. So these I became fascinated with pretty early on. You've got your standard cube over here. This is a crazy 3x3 plus, and every circle is stationary. Basically it's solved just like a super cube, and that's because these inner ones over here get solved as you solved everything else, and it's because the same thing. This edge never leaves this inner corner, moves with it over here, moves with it over here, and when you turn it, these have an association with each other, so they get automatically solved. Again, there's different planetary versions. I've got tutorials on each one, but this is fine just for the standpoint of the collection. And if you like to have holy puzzles, well, there's this version. So this is the void cube over here, and this is the equivalent to that, but in circle form. So you basically have circles over here. So you have the circle version here, and again every one of them is stationary, so it lends to the challenge. And once again, in order to figure out how to solve this, you find which ones are really bonded to each other, so to speak. So this and this, same kind of thing. You might as well look at them as the same piece because they move together. If you like the 2x2 versions, well, then we've got these. So this one is a rare one. Anyway, so this is a normal 2x2, and here you have the circle version of that. Once again, this remains stationary over here. Very challenging puzzle. Now this one is unusual. To get the structure of the 2x2, some of them are stationary and some of them are not. So you have to figure out which ones are attached. It turns out that this piece here and this piece here are attached. As this moves, so too does this, and you never really separate them out from each other. So that was an assistance in solving this very challenging one. Got a tutorial on this as well. If you want to go up the level, of course you've got the crazy pentahedrons. So pentahedron puzzles, fun little puzzle, not too difficult of a solve, but by adding the circles here, each one again is stationary. I had to swap them out. But you do have planetary versions here, but I wanted to make it where every one of them is stationary. Again, it does enhance the challenge to have different ones that are stationary and different ones that move. But again, for the purposes of the solve, for the purpose of the collection rather, I like the aesthetics of having them all here. So once again, this edge and this corner, pretty much the same piece. You can't really separate them out, so that is something that assists the solve of this. But you do end up with a supercube version of that. And of course, if you like the dodecahedrons, you've got these. So we've got the normal face-turning dodecahedron here. This one is a version where every circle turns. This is a very labor-intensive and challenging puzzle, one of my favorites. I do have a tutorial on all the different planetary versions. Each one has their own degree of challenge, but again, this is good enough for me now just for the purposes of the collection. And once again, this edge, this corner, when you solve it, you pretty much solve the inner corners if you solve the outer edges. They're the same as each other. Moving on, if you like the 4x4s, here are all the various circle versions of our 4x4. This is a regular Rubik's 4x4 here. Version 1, where the circle's in the middle here. Version 2, which by the way is among my favorite puzzles here. I managed to lubricate this down quite a bit so that I can make it move the way that I would like. And version 3, another really fun puzzle, but pretty much the same as version 1 and 2. Well, I'm sorry, pretty much the same as version 2. And in terms of how these work, well, these are pretty much like a 2x2. So this, and this piece are really one and the same. You'll find that you never do separate them out. And over here, you do have some similar pieces over here as well. This piece and this piece, notice I turn this here, I turn this here. These two pieces always move with each other. So we solve them like that. I do have tutorials on that. And this one here, same kind of thing. These pieces here you don't have to worry about because they're also the same as their respective edges over here. So once again, this and this are the same, this and this are the same, and they kind of solve themselves as you solve the puzzle. So the fun thing about circle puzzles is they're like puzzles inside of puzzles. That's really what they are. Because what you're doing is you're solving an inner puzzle and then solving the outer shell. So you have to use different kinds of algorithms to surround what you've already solved. So each one of these has pieces that are the same, but it's puzzles inside puzzles. Like with this, you've got an inner triangle inside the outer triangle, basically. So if you can figure out what is your inner puzzle and figure out which pieces are the same, that can guide you regarding what you need to do. And in terms of future circle puzzles, who knows where we're going to go next. Well, for now, let's bring these back into here and see how the circle puzzles can be mastered and solved just by what we have here. Well, the first thing to do is to identify the puzzle within the puzzle. This is the Venus version, which is all circles on all sides. Each one is stationary. You might not be able to see that on camera too well. The movement is kind of clunky, but in any case, so you can see that everyone is stationary, which does enhance the challenge. So we can look to see which movements are the same. Now before we saw that the edges and these centers, these inner centers tended to be the same. And we see that, yeah, this edge moves with this. However, well, so far so good. This edge, this inner corner here is still moving with this, so that's okay. So maybe they're one and the same again. Except for the fact that when I turn this, this does not move with this. So what that means is that this outer edge is not the same as this inner corner or inner center, circle center. So that's not the same. As we look around, when I move this piece here, this stays stationary. This is still where it is. When I move this down here, well, this and this move together. And if I move it over here, this and this move together. What that means is that there are pieces that are the same, and it happens to be these inner corners over here. So this and this, this and this, these are actually the same piece. Now here's the thing about this puzzle. With all the other circle puzzles, or much of the other circle puzzles, if you solve the puzzle, there's pieces that you don't even have to worry about. So first I thought, well, if I get the one where every circle is stationary, then I won't have to worry about certain aspects. Maybe I can solve it just like a face-turning octahedron. maybe do some fancy commutators or algorithms to rotate these guys or to cycle these guys, but these might just solve by themselves. I was fascinated to find that it doesn't work that way. You actually have to do them separately. So we're going to go through this. In order to guide our way through this, we had to design commutators, and that's really what we're going to be doing. And the commutators will see us through. Once again, a commutator is where you take two moves and then reverse the two moves. So RU, RI, UI. Then you do a middle move, which takes a piece that was isolated, that had changed where no other piece within that plane changed. You'd move that, do your middle move, replace it with another piece, and then reverse the commutator, do the opposite. So you do four moves, where the last two reverses the first two, do a middle move, and then just do the opposite of the first four moves that you did, and undo the middle move. That, in essence, is what a commutator is, and I've shown examples in previous tutorials on how to do that. So we're going to guide our way through this. Just going to move this over here. What I'm going to do is, I've already actually done a tutorial on the face-turning octahedron, because that's actually what this is. This is the face-turning octahedron, which functionally is the same puzzle as this. These two are really the same puzzle when you think about it. Put it down here, you got a corner here, you've got like a inner edge here, inner corner here. This is the same piece here, these are the same pieces. The only thing that's different is you have the center here. You don't see the center over here. I've already done a tutorial on this puzzle, the face-turning octahedron. So that's not really going to be any difference. The only difference is that you have the center to kind of guide you as to where pieces are supposed to be. So I'm not going to do a separate tutorial on this, but I'm going to do one in conjunction with this just to show what we do with this puzzle and compare it with this one over here. So the movement of the puzzle looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and scramble it up. Okay, there we go, nice and scrambled. Now, I'd said before, especially when we did the dreidel cube, that if you have a puzzle, it might be best to kind of work out some commutators. And all you have to do is think about a couple of moves that you can do and undo. So it can be something as simple as RU, RI, UI, then do some kind of a middle move. But because we've got so many different pieces with varying degrees of complexity, we may want to siphon out what moves what. Now understand, if you do a combination of moves and you find that you've three-cycled middle moves over here for these inner corner areas here, and you also find that you cycled these as well, that's okay, because as long as you can find another kind of a move that can cycle these. But here's the thing. It's not too difficult to come up with a kind of a move that might three-cycle, say, these pieces over here. One thing that comes to mind is if I were to bring this up, turn this in here, you can see that I've replaced this over here, then bring it down. So that's a pretty simple first part of a commutator. I can do R, UI, RI. Then I can look around and see, and what I see is that this moved, this moved, this moved, and reversing it's easy, just do R, U, RI. So what I did is I just moved this, and I brought it down to here. Now what I can do is I can do a middle move. Now notice nothing else here has been changed or affected. So anything in this plane is a good middle move because it isolates this piece. Now it also isolates this piece, but not this. But if I'm just dealing with these little wedges over here, this is the only one that's been moved that's isolated in this layer. So this here is a great middle move to do. So now that I've done first part of a commutator, I know what kind of a middle move. So I'm going to move this in over here, say, so it's replaced with this. Now let's undo the commutator. U, or rather R, U, RI. And then take the middle move, move it back. So now we can see what was affected and what wasn't affected. These guys here are affected. What I see is that this white one moved to here, this green one moved to here, and this yellow one, rather orange one, there I go again, moved to here. So this is a nice three-cycle of these. Now I also three-cycled this. This moved to here, this moved to here, this moved to here. So it appears that I can't move these guys independently without moving these guys. But that's okay if I can find another kind of a commutator that can move these guys as well. However, I do have another thought. I don't like to do multiple commutators on a puzzle unless I absolutely have to. I like this one. It's simple, it's easy to remember. Let's do it again. R, UI, RI, middle move here. R, U, RI, middle move back. So we've cycled these again. One more time, should get it back. Turn, 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 and bang. I could do that all day. So that's a pretty good kind of a commutator. But what about these? Can I isolate these? Well, how do you think I may be able to do that? One thought is, what if I three-cycled these edges here, but I coordinated in such a way to where I three-cycled the same color? Because there's three of these. If there's three of these, can't I three-cycle the same color? And if I do that, the only thing I'm going to be changing is going to be these outer corner pieces over here. So again, what I showed you with the commutator that I did, three-cycled these inner areas here, and at the same time three-cycled these guys. Well, that's going to kind of make things uncoordinated. But if I coordinate the three-cycle that has the same color, then I will have independently three-cycled these. So what can I do? This one went to here, this one went to here, and this one went to here. So I was thinking, well, let's go ahead and coordinate it all to where these pieces here are the same color and see how it affects these guys. So I'm going to deconstruct the puzzle to put it in a position where all these are the same color that I three-cycle, do the commutator, then reconstruct it back, and if I do that, the only thing that should change should be these outer pieces. So let's say it's the white one. I'm going to roll the white one up here, okay? So I've got this up over here. Now to bring one down here, because this was part of the three-cycle, here to here, here to here, I'm just going to take this piece, pop it down here. So now this is here. So I got a white one here and a white one here. I got to get a white one here. Well, why don't I take this and roll it in here? So now this is a three-cycle between equivalent pieces. So now let's go ahead and do the commutator and then undo what we just did. So R, UI, RI, white. Move this white in, so that's here. Now we undo it. R, U, RI, bring it back. Now, without any further ado, we simply undo what we did to get it set up, undo the setup, and it's pretty easy to see. I mean, here's this big old purple wedge that goes over here. So this one moved up. Remember, we had to move that down. And then this, well, you can see that this white one turns into here. We actually move this as well. Actually, this turns to here. Remember, we had to turn this way. So we turn this back. And then we take this and we turn this back. So now, as you can see, we've got ourselves a bona fide corner three-cycle. This one here went to here, this here went to here, and this corner with the red went to here. So all I did was I three-cycled the same color piece, and it didn't affect that because I just reset it up back to where it was, and I just three-cycled the corner. So now I have ways of isolating these pieces and isolating these pieces. So let's go ahead and do that again. But I have to do the same move each time. So bring this up, bring this white one down, then turn this white one where it's supposed to be, and let's do it again. Turn, 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 move it in, turn, 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 move it back, and I think once more, turn, 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 move it in, turn, 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 move it back. Undo my setups, pretty easy to remember. This went here, this turned here, and this turned here. Okay, so all I did was I pretty easily found a setup for a commutator that isolated a piece here, and I moved it, found that I three-cycled these guys, this to here, this to here, this to here. It three-cycled these as well. So then a follow-up commutator that I could do is I just made it to where they're all the same color, then I can three-cycle these. So now I know how to three-cycle here to here, here to here, and here to here, and how to three-cycle these. So with that said, I'm now ready to commence with the scramble and the solve. Now what about these guys here? What about these corners? What about these edges? Well, because they're stationary, I already know that these inner edges can't go anywhere except around this plane. They can't rotate anywhere else. So that's going to be easy. What about these corners? Well, maybe they can be solved the same as this corner. What about these guys over here? Well, I think because they're stationary, these actually become like these. So we could think about 3 cycles with these, but we'll kind of leave that go for now and start with the scramble rather. So turn, 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 turn. So I do these long introductions to these puzzles because that's what I like to do when first getting them. Analyze, see if we can make predictions, scientific predictions about what we expect these puzzles to do, how we expect these puzzles to turn. And we're trying to scramble this as deeply as possible. It's kind of a clunky puzzle. It does move okay, it moves pretty well. But from time to time, it snags. It does like to snag on me. Turn, turn. And turn. Turn. And done. Okay, so what do we think? Pretty good? Pretty good.